And right now, we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick alongside Alix Steel, here to help take you through the closing bell. A global simulcast. It starts right now. Carol, Massar and Matt Miller joining us from the radio booth as we welcome our audiences across all of our Bloomberg platforms. That includes, Carol, our partnership with YouTube.
Yeah.
Quite an interesting end to quite a wild week.
Very unexpected, not exactly how I expected it to play out. I got to say, I'm exhausted in terms of the moves, the swings, the changes in the think, the emergency feel and panic feel on Monday, and it's kind of super mellow today.
I have always told new broadcasters, don't say the market's boring. You got to sell this product. But Romaine, it is not an interesting end. I mean, we're mildly up and we were mildly down this morning. Today is like the calmest day that we've had since last week.
Also, Carol, are you just tired because this is like hour 5 of you guys broadcasting together at this moment for today? But to that point, I mean, volume is really, really light. So you have to wonder if today everyone just put on their positions and just didn't want to take on massive amount of risk into the weekend. And then let's see sort of how futures open on Sunday. And then when you finally have the funds coming in on Monday morning in the cash market, what really transpires. Yeah,
and of course you have a lot of catalysts next week that could actually move this market as well. We've been talking a lot on the TV side, guys, about the economic data next week as well as a couple of key earnings reports, including out of Walmart, which should maybe give us some insights into the health of consumer spending, amongst other things as well, as we close out this week here, as we get the closing bells here in New York. Green for some of the major indices here after, like I said, what had been an incredibly wild week. We talk about a gain in the Dow Jones Industrial Average for the day, up about 0.1%, or roughly 50 points. Takes a while for these numbers to settle. The Dow's still going to close lower on a weekly basis. The Nasdaq Composite is up by about 0.5% here on the day. Is going to close lower on the week. And the S&P 500, 0.5% gain here on the day. And we were just joking, Alix and I here, that despite all the volatility, the S&P is unchanged on a weekly basis. So basically all that volatility, all that hand-wringing was for naught. The Russell 2000, as you can see there on the screen, down on the day by about 0.2%.
Yeah, I'm looking at the best performing names in the S&P 500 for the week overall. Axon Enterprise, the outperformer, up almost 25% on the week. Super Micro, though, at the bottom of the pack, guys, down about 18.5%.
All right, let's take a look at IMAP here. It gives you a nice sort of sense of where sentiment is. All you have to worry about is if there's more red or more green, and there's more green. There's some pockets of red in there too, but no surprise, it's communication services and information technology that are kind of leading the way higher here. Communication services up by 1%, Carol.
All right, let's get to some of the individual gainers, and I'm going to go to Trade Desk, which was, we saw it really an outperformer in the major indexes today, up about 33% here. Oh, wait, sorry. Let me go back to Trade Desk. Sorry, I was on Sweet Green. I kind of jumped the gun.
I thought so.
She's hungry. That's what that is.
I am. Trade Desk, forgive me, up 12.5%. This was an outperforming in the major indices. Advertising technology company, folks, reported second quarter results, beat expectations, also gave an outlook that is ahead of the analyst consensus. Not a name we talk about, but this
such
is
a key, dude, when we're talking about Warner Brothers, when we're talking about Paramount, when we're talking about Netflix, this is a key name.
All right, dude. Thank you so much. Yeah, but it's not a name that comes up often. Expedia Group, I don't know how much you folks have been talking about it, but it's really interesting to see a lot of players in the travel space, Airbnb and others, some of the airline companies over the last couple of weeks, kind of talking about softening sentiment. And then Expedia saying the same thing. We were talking about it last night after the close. And yet, nonetheless, this one really an outperformer in today's session, up about 10% here at the close. And then now to the winner, the one that was up.
Sweet Green.
Up more than 30%. Alix was breaking it down last night, finishing up 33%. The company posted sales that outpaced market expectations, raised its outlook for the full year. So this one definitely easily an outperformer, although you said, only up about 20% from its IPO.
From its IPO. This 33% gain means that if you bought the stock at the IPO in 2021, you're finally in the money. All right, in terms of the losers today, Insulet shares are the biggest losers on the S&P, falling the most in more than 2 years. The company makes insulin delivery systems, and they expect a less steep ramp of new customers in the second half. I would have previously said, why? We're all going to get diabetes with our diets, but now there are GLP-1s, so maybe we won't. Intel is a big loser, and it has been a big loser for a long time now, but it's made worse yesterday after we all left this office. office. Moody's came out with a downgrade to their senior unsecured debt. Moody's says it reflects their expectations for Intel's weaker profitability over the next year and a half, higher costs related to product manufacturing, unfavorable product mix, a weaker than expected demand in nearly all of its product segments, and continued market share loss. So not a great note out from Moody's on Intel. Finally, Gilead shares after the biopharma company said it had mixed results, or actually analysts said they had mixed results, but they did have solid tumor oncology a business there, so at least they're doing a good job in continuing to fight cancer, but they do face commercial and developmental challenges, so Gilead, one of the biggest losers on the S&P as well.
All right, guys, I'm taking a look at the bond market here because it's kind of, if you went back a week, you wouldn't have seen the turmoil that evolved this week in the bond market, but it's pretty solid. You got 2-year yield going nowhere fast. You get a little bit of buying in the back end there. You see the 10-year yield off by about 4 basis points. But you also had an auction. You had a 3, the 10, and the 30. They weren't great. They were kind of meh, particularly that 10-year earlier in the week that kind of turned the market around. And you're looking at what? The 210 spread disinverted earlier in the week, and now we're back to a little bit of inversion. It feels a little bit like reverting to the old playbook, guys.
Ira Jersey said they were bad. Just so you know. Ira Jersey said the auctions were bad.
Well, did he say kind of 2 of the auctions?
He was talking about yesterday and the day before.
Yeah.
I say Okay, I'm a little bit, I'm going to couch it a little bit.
You're more optimistic than Ira Jersey, our lead rates analyst.
To be continued. All right, let's go back to one of the stories that Matt and I have been talking about, and I hinted on it earlier with Expedia. But there's a lot of warning signs, if you will, in terms of a lot of the travel players, whether it's hotels, whether it's flights. I thought this was interesting in this story. It talks about this one company, Embark Beyond, and they're a travel advisory firm, and they say that the average trip length is down 14% year over year, averaging 6.2 days rather than 7.8. And even among its deep-pocketed travelers, the word of the year is value, according to the company's co-founder. So people are looking for value when they go to travel, or they're kind of scaling back their travel.
Is that the dog airline, Embark?
Embark Beyond, they're a travel advisor.
There is a dog airline, right? I thought it was interesting that Expedia was up, 13% on the day, even though they came out yesterday with soft bookings, and we had bad news from Airbnb, bad news from TripAdvisor, kind of bad news from Disney parks, and yet
Ryanair
Expedia
has come out too.
Yeah.
They're a discount traveler.
Yeah, but is this a kind of that blip here? And we talk about the performance of those shares on the week here. And I was kind of surprised by the rebound in Expedia as well as in Booking, but you didn't necessarily see that same rebound, Alex, in those other names. Hilton was still down 13% on the week, Marriott down 10%. A lot of the sort of the traditional hotel lines will really seem to be the ones hit the most.
Yeah, I also wondered too, it was already kind of baked in, right? That Expedia dragged down a little bit because of Airbnb and Booking. So I wonder if that was already there, which is a little bit of a rebound because it wasn't as bad as feared.
All right, you guys, I don't know if you guys have been watching the Olympics. Yes. I know you guys have a lot of TV screens
Only the
in the radio booth here. Well, the breakdancing's over. The woman from Japan won, Ami. She did a great job here. The men are tomorrow here, and that was fascinating. But this is it, guys. The Olympics wrap up this weekend. I don't know what your favorite moment from this Olympics has been so far, but it's well, there you got it. Simone Biles. How about that?
She's the best. She's the best. But there was a great piece, guys, in the Wall Street Journal that talked about some people from different countries. You don't just get a medal, you get other stuff. And it follows one gentleman, Carlos Yulo, won 2 Olympic gold medals for the Philippines. He doesn't just get the Olympic medal. He gets a congressional medal, at least $350,000 from the government, a free set of headlights, fog lights, free wedding photography, haircuts, furniture. His driveway is repaved with asphalt, and I think he gets a car or something. I mean, that's awesome.
I think a lot of them do. I didn't realize that athletes actually get a lot of other things when they, or some of them do, when they win a medal.
I mean, they struggle through training and a lot of them don't make any money on the way up. So I'm glad they get free fog lights. My favorite moment has to be Djokovic finally getting his Olympic gold. I mean, this adds to, the most wins in majors for any male tennis player, and he finally gets this. He could, I think, happily retire at this point. Yeah.
Interesting, too. I just want to go back to the breakdancing because that's close to my heart, which was the first year. There's a great story in the Bloomberg Terminal about the next Olympics 4 years from now and the new sports that are going to go into that. Football is actually making it in, although it's flag football. But apparently, NFL players will be allowed, at least here in the U.S., will be allowed to vie for to be on the Olympic team.
Here's my question. Can you call it football if there's also soccer? Because doesn't everyone but us call it football?
But you're talking about,
you play it with your feet?
No, he's talking about American football.
Yeah, right? I know, but can you call two things football? Because, soccer for the rest of the world, you play with your feet, and then we're doing flag football. Is that going to get confusing? Do we need to rethink this? Is it, I don't know.
No, we should call football, just call it soccer. By the way, remember when I ran into Fab Five Freddy downtown and he knew Romaine?
He did. He did know Romaine.
Everybody knows Romaine, guys. I got stopped in the street talking about Romaine.
What does he think about football versus football? Did I pronounce it right?
Football.
Football? All right.
We're going to put that on a loop, Romaine, just so you know. It's going to be with you forever.
You can add it to all my other...
Cannot wait.
Bloopers.
All right.
Have a good weekend, guys. A safe weekend. Enjoy the closing ceremonies of the games. They've been really incredible to watch. All right, that's a wrap. We're cross-platform, radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals. We call it Closing the Bell. We will see you again, same time, same place on Monday.